Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. My name is Lynette. Today we're going to talk about being scared and doing it anyway. I did have a guest speaker who is supposed to be with me who happens to be multi-talented, plays several different instruments, and is a great singer. But she had shared with me the fear that comes over her just before a performance. So I started thinking, if somebody who has that much talent and knows exactly what they're doing still has fear, then that would apply to so many. So I wanted to speak with Stephanie about what she does to handle it, because as an observer, I've seen her perform many times, and you would never know that there's any fear at all. Especially with her voice. It's amazing. But being scared and doing it anyway applies not only to performing, but it applies to any area in your life, whether it be a relationship, a job, whether you want to be a CEO or a cook. We need to recognize that we have a little bit of fear, which is good because you can turn that fear into excitement, and that actually gives you more of a bubbly personality. The worst thing that could happen is waking up one day, years from now, and regretting that you didn't apply yourself or that you didn't try because you let fear hold you back. Now, also, I want to make sure you understand that there is no such thing as failure. Fear comes from fear of failure. Because if things don't work out exactly like we want them to, then we're going to learn. We're going to learn how to improve ourselves, what area we still need work in. And if it does work out, then you have that much more success under your belt. But remember, and I think we've talked about this before, it's not necessarily the destination. It's the journey, and the journey of thinking that you're at the top of your realm and learning that you still need to apply yourself. You still need to learn. I think life in general is a lifelong lesson, because when we reach our peak, there's kind of an unsettling because you have nothing more to work for. I remember hearing a story of an actor that won an Academy Award, and that night, instead of celebrating, he went and saw a therapist. Because when you kind of reach your peak, you either shift gears and start in a new direction, or you feel like this is it, I've made it to the top. But as we talked about in the past, you never have made it to the top. You always have another rung on the ladder to reach toward. I think the exciting part of life is actually striving and working toward getting something and looking back at yourself. It's not for anybody else, but it's looking back at yourself and realizing that you've come a long way. And sometimes you may not feel like it right when you're actually experiencing it. But after going so far and working so hard, if you look back and saw where you started, you will realize how far you have come. So all of us have a goal of bettering ourselves. We've talked about being the best we can be, living to our full potential, doing the exercises, eating right, everything to make ourselves what we want to be. But now it's time to go out and really work toward accomplishing what you want from the world, where you see yourself, where is your fit in this universe. And maybe you're already there, which is great, but there is always room for either improvement or advancement. So no matter what anyone says, and this is another reason why on the last episode I mentioned, don't be so eager to share what you're working on with people, because a lot of people are envious. Maybe it makes them look at themselves as not as motivated as you are. And so you don't want them thinking those things because it's putting bad energy out into the universe. But regardless, what you're working on, what you do, how far you come, is up to you. It's up to you to feel excited for you. You are your best cheerleader. And if you're lucky enough to have a confidant that you can share with, who will support you, and you know that it's unconditional support, and that's oftentimes a parent, a best friend. But for the most part, we've got to be our own cheerleader. We've got to know where our shortcomings are. I don't know, sometimes I'll tell somebody something that I'm doing or working on, and I really try to emphasize how I'm feeling about it, what I'm doing step by step. And I can tell by the response that they really don't have a clue what I'm talking about. So I think by discussing it, it's almost more for me than it is for them. But anytime that you're stepping out into the unknown, that you're taking that second step, that you're reaching for a higher rung on the ladder, I think you're going to have a little bit of stress. It's a little scary because you're actually stepping out into the unknown. Have you ever noticed that so many times when you're starting a new job or a new relationship or whatever, anything that's new, you get that little bit of excitement, but yet you're also a little bit scared. And after you've been there or the relationship for a while, you look back and you feel so comfortable by now and you're thinking, what was I afraid of? But if you never took that step, you would never know. Your life would be status quo. You would stay right where you are. So I think putting the fear aside, putting all negativity aside, and letting it be an excitement that you're taking a step forward in this world, that you're keeping your life going, your life is worth living because you're not stopping at any certain point, that you continue to grow. And after all, I think that's what life is growth. And even if things don't go the way that we want them to, which as human beings, we know we're not going to hit the mark every time the first time. That just means you simply need to work harder. And by working harder, it gives your life meaning. It gives your life fulfillment. And that's part of being the whole circle, of being the best that you can be. So happiness comes from everything we've talked about, being your best self, doing your exercises, eating right, having mental clarity. But it's also being a well-rounded person, and a well-rounded person sets goals. It doesn't matter what the goal is. That's up to you. Only you know what the goal is. But you have goals, so you are always working towards something. I know people come over here all the time and they say to me, what have you been doing? And I'll say, oh, nothing. And because, first of all, I'm not sure they really care what I've been doing. But also, I don't think they would understand. I always work towards something. I always have something going on. So I just say nothing because I think it's kind of a nicety to ask someone what they've been doing. But also, I don't think people fully understand. So when someone says that and you try to explain what you've been doing, I don't think you can really explain it. It's a day-by-day thing, and how do you explain you're having fun because you're working towards something? In the past, we've talked about keeping your priorities straight, in painting the world your color. In other words, living where you want to live, doing what you want to do. And this is just another step toward accomplishing the goal of being healthy, but also being happy. And I think part of being happy is having goals. But anytime you take away that goal of working towards something, I think there's a little bit of a void there. Again, I think we all need to work towards something. So to sum this up, it's like as opportunities come, regardless of what they are, where you have to put yourself out there, and the lessons and the academics that you've learned take a step further. And it is unknown and it can be scary, but do it anyway, because that is the only way you're going to get ahead, is to feel that fear and take that step anyway. And one day you'll look back and it'll almost be comical. You'll say, I was worried, I was scared to take this step. This is something I know so well. And the only sad part is the people that are frozen by the fear of taking the next step. So put one foot in front of the other, walk forward in your health, walk forward in your happiness, walk forward in your career goals, walk forward in your relationship goals. I think we need all of the components to be well-rounded, to be who we want to be who we need to be. And again, I know when you haven't done something, I know it can be scary. But once you get your thoughts in a little bit better place, and 2 episodes ago we talked about mental fake news, because I don't know why our minds give us that fake news, because we can't really listen to what we're thinking because we're looking at the future, and our mind doesn't know the future. So why would it sabotage us? It's as easy to think about things positively as it is negatively. And remember, the positive thoughts are more realistic and more likely to happen. So you might as well embrace those thoughts and walk forward in a confident manner. Take those steps forward. Again, if you're still feeling a little uncomfortable, don't let your own mind sabotage you. Yes, we need our minds. We need to have control over what we think. However, we don't need it to give us negative feedback. I know that in the past I discussed being empty inside. By being empty inside is making your brain, and part of it is visualization. You picture your brain empty instead of being chitter-chatter, because a lot of the thoughts that we have are unnecessary. So you visualize your mind as being empty, and you tell yourself, be empty inside. And that sounds cold. It sounds like you would be somewhat robotic. But what it amounts to is it puts you more in the present moment. You're more engaged in what you're doing or who you're talking to or who you're doing something with. So that really is a win-win situation. And then, of course, our minds are there to call on. But some of the information that it gives us and the consistency of the information that it's giving us, a big portion of that is unnecessary. Yes, we want to have a good mind, a good brain, to think things, to help us sort things out and find solutions to things. But we don't need the idle chatter. And personally, I have found by saying, be empty inside, it brings me back to the present moment. It brings me engaged in what I'm doing. It brings me more present with who I'm with. So move forward. Even if we get a little scared, even if we have anything going on that's just stepping out of your comfort zone, feel that, but do it anyway. And if your mind is sabotaging you, think be empty inside, and you will be there in the present moment. Your mind is still there. It's not going anywhere. By being empty, it doesn't literally mean you're being empty. It means your mind is on hold, giving you the freedom to work on things that need to be worked on, to think about things that you should be thinking about, to address what you need to address without having the negative thoughts that are only sabotaging you. With that being said, have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.